Good evening. We'll now open the closed session meeting of November 27th, 2023. The time is 5 p.m. Madam City Clerk, will you please call roll?
Councilmember Gardner.
Here.
Councilmember Thorpe.
Here.
Councilmember Venable.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Duncan.
Here.
Mayor Bieber.
Here.
All present.
Thank you, ma'am. Public comment for the closed session?
No comments.
Thank you, ma'am. It is still 5 p.m. and we will now move into closed session. Good evening. Welcome. I will call this meeting of November 27th, 2023 to order. And this is the City Council Successor Agency and Housing Authority meeting. And at this time, I'd like to ask Captain Walker to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Looking at my notes, I did not announce the time. So 6 p.m. was the time we were called to order. Thank you, Captain. Madam City Clerk, will you please call roll?
Councilmember Gardner.
Here.
Councilmember Thorpe.
Here.
Councilmember Venable.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Duncan. Mayor Beaver.
Here.
All present.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. City Attorney, do we have anything to report out of closed session?
Good evening, Mayor and Council, and happy Thanksgiving. We have nothing to report out of closed session today.
Thank you, sir. Mr. City Manager, are there any changes to the agenda?
No changes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we'll move to special presentations, and I would ask that Megan Wolf please come to the podium and let's hear this presentation.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'd like to invite Jeff Distelberg, the Chair of the Healthy Yucaipa Committee, to come down to the podium to give the special presentation. As he makes his way down, Heather Obear and Meredith Sherwin will be joining him, also members of the Healthy Yucaipa Committee, and I believe I saw Dr. Wong here. He's making his way down as well.
Good evening, City Council. Thank you for the time on the agenda today. On behalf of the Healthy Yucaipa Committee, first and foremost, just want to thank those of you that came out this past weekend to our event, Mayor Beaver and Councilman Venable. Appreciate your participation and being there to support our event. Our committee's here in force tonight, and we're here to talk with you about a special project that we embarked on at the beginning of the year. And as many of you will remember, we did fill some seats on the committee at the beginning of the calendar year. And with new faces came new ideas. And one of the ideas that really kind of took hold and that we have some passion around is to help our community members who are maybe going through a difficult time, need some extra support from the community. And so with that, we started talking about building a resource network for the city of Yucaipa. There were some previous attempts to do this, and as often is the case, they become outdated rather quickly. So we started some investigation about how to go about this and do it in a more sustainable way. And early in our investigation and research, we came across 211, which is an organization that perhaps many of you know about. It's actually part of the Inland SoCal United Way, and they have a platform that is really available nationwide, but is really dependent on resources in local communities to connect with them in order to build a resource network. So we thought that that might be a good opportunity for us. We actually have now developed a relationship with the president of the Inland SoCal chapter, as well as the director of 211. We've actually had a chance to bring them into one of our meetings, and we believe that this is really going to be the platform to build a more sustainable resource network for the city. We heard early on that, through the school districts, through our police and other civil servants, that connecting people to resources in the city of Yucaipa is a challenge. And as the city grows, the needs of the city grow as well. And so there's a need to grow the resources for the city. So we're here tonight to ask for your support and endorsement. There is a brief PowerPoint presentation. I think, I'll just quickly say that as we get into this work, it's really in 3 phases. The first phase is what we're in right now. which is basically kind of early investigation and trying to learn about what that partnership with 211 would look like as it relates to the customer or the consumer, as well as the agency in town that would, benefit from being on 211. On this slide, you'll see in the bullet points, one of the things that we're really excited about is that 211 does come with resources. And some of those resources are at the United Way in this program. There are actually 30 community advisors as well as 3 curators who will work with our city agencies to make sure that they're able to scale this in a way where they can effectively get their mission and what they offer to the community out without being overwhelmed. So we're excited about that. Here on this slide, you'll see what the current use of 211 is for the city of Yucaipa, which is pretty meager. So this is really a golden opportunity for us to capitalize on a platform which is going to be in the palms of our community members' hands. On the last slide here, this is a little hard to read. I apologize for it being smaller, but this is actually on the right-hand side, the different colored dots there represents all the different categories that 211 can help connect community members to. So you have categories like housing, food, utility, healthcare, and the list goes on. So this is really a multifaceted approach, and we believe that in the long run, this is going to create a resource directory not only once, but will be more sustainable year over year. So I really want to thank our committee members. This is something we've been talking about at all of our meetings, in addition to fun events like the Turkey Trot and others that we look forward to bringing to you next year. This kind of serves a different passion from our city members on the committee, and we hope for your support. Anything you guys want to add? Okay.
Thank you, sir. Great presentation. I just taking a glance at these bullet points, I like seeing the things like employment, government services, as well as volunteer and donations, disaster services. Certainly, we know in Yucaipa that we are prone for disaster, and preparedness is the best ammunition we have to prevent any loss of life or substantial injury. And obviously, certainly, property can be replaced. It's trying to keep people safe. Certainly, this has my endorsement. I think this is phenomenal. I think the information is out there. It's a matter of getting it all into one clearinghouse so that people can easily access it is paramount. I really appreciate what the Healthy Yucaipa Committee is doing to make that possible. Mayor Pro Tem Duncan?
I had the privilege of using this service this past week. I had a lady come to our church that needed help, and so we were trying to help her. And then through the process of trying to help her, I was told that 211 was available, which I didn't know anything about. So I called it, and I hit the homeless button or the homeless prompt, and they were very, very responsive. And then I had another opportunity with another gentleman this past week, and so I already knew about it at that point, so I went ahead and used it again. So I've used it twice this past week. So it's I agree with you, it's an amazing service.
Excellent.
Councilman Thorpe?
Very good presentation, thank you.
Councilman Venable?
I'm so proud of every one of you guys. You guys done a fantastic job. I sit with you guys on the most part, and it's such a privilege of mine to be able to sit with you guys, because it's an amazing committee, and we get stronger and stronger each time. The Turkey Trot, you guys sold out. That was so fantastic. Heather and I were passing out medals, so was Jeff, and I just thank you for letting me be a part of that.
Thank you.
You endorse the 211 program?
Oh, I do endorse it.
Perfect.
Forgot that.
Councilman Garner?
I think that was a great presentation, and I think this is going to work out great. I like this.
So the next step for, excuse me, so were you finished? I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I'm done.
Okay. So the next step then would be what? After you've received our endorsement, where are we going from here?
Very good, thank you. So as I said, we're in phase 1 right now, which is really looking for some early adopters so that we can test this out. Appreciate what you shared about, your own experience there, Councilman Duncan. And so we're hoping that other people will share a similar experience, that this is a good platform for them, both as a consumer and as an agency in the city. And then we'll kick into phase 2, which is really, we need to build more resources in the city of Yucaipa on this platform. So we will be looking for your support and welcoming, agencies to connect with us and connect with 211 so that we can build a more impressive, robust list of resources in the city. And then the final phase would be socialization of 211 to the greater community once, those resources are in place.
Perfect. Well, then I look forward to seeing the next presentation as this moves forward. I hope it gains steam, and certainly we'll, I imagine our PIO and working with our news mirror, getting information out there so we can, like you said, collect that pool of resources that our community members can use. So outstanding work. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Actually, yeah, in light of the turkey trot and what we just presented, can we actually get the members of the Healthy Yucaipa Committee up here in front? We'll get a quick picture with you guys, and we'll move forward with trying to get more information to this out to the public.
While they're coming down, I just want to mention that Cindy and Ms. Hickman, Brandy Hickman, was on the subcommittee with Jeff, and those three are very responsible for getting this thing done. So
Let's put our Healthy Yucaipa members in the middle. Okay. Is that right, Doctor? Perfect. All right. That was good. We'll move on to our public safety update. We'll move to our police chief, Sheriff's Captain Walker.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. This will be your police department's statistics for October of this year. As you can see on the screen here, during the month of October, our deputies responded to or generated a little over 3,500 calls for service, 3,559 to be exact, which was a decrease from September of 230 calls. During the month of October, there's a typo on this. I noticed math was not my strong suit in school. It's actually 38 Part 1 crimes reported for the city. As you can see from that top half of the list there, no reported homicides, 1 reported rape, no reported robberies, 4 aggravated assaults, 13 burglaries, 15 larcenies or general thefts, 4 motor vehicle thefts, and 1 arson. So really, these numbers, not a huge increase in any one of these top categories here. Some decreases in some areas. Most notably, there was 4 less automobile thefts in October from September. Again, in October, our deputies wrote 261 traffic citations. They investigated 43 traffic collisions, and overall there was 118 arrests for the month of October. Our most common arrests for October, were 35 narcotic-related offenses, 20 outstanding warrant arrests, and 13 DUIs. I do want to take a moment to say that we've seen numerous DUIs over the last month and a half, specifically daytime DUIs. Just want to inform the council and let the public know that, you know, DUI is a serious crime. If you unfortunately were to kill someone in the course of driving under the influence, you could be charged with a murder. So it's very, very serious crime. We've seen an alarming trend of those just steadily increasing or having a significant number of those around the city lately. So designated driver, utilize Uber or Lyft or one of those services, or call a friend, designated driver, keep everybody safe this holiday season. Our emergency response time was right around that 5.3 minutes, which is right around our average. Of course, we always strive to drive that number down as low as we can. There are some external factors that affect those numbers, but overall for October, we're in that 5-minute range. So that will conclude my report, but I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Captain. Any questions?
I don't have any questions. I have a very good presentation. Kind of off from the presentation just a little bit. Wanted to commend you and your staff for your recent social media posts. They're clean, they're to the point, small graphics, just they cover good information. I just wanted to point that out. It was very, very good. I thought they were spot on.
Thank you. And for those of you that don't know, we're on Facebook, Instagram, all the social media sites. Yucaipa Sheriff or Yucaipa Police Department, as well as the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, has a lot of social media we're trying to push out, especially during this holiday season. And a lot of, I think, Councilman, what you're talking about is a lot of informational posts to the public of just how to be safe during this holiday season, whether that's not leaving valuable items in your car that are visible to those people who wish to commit nefarious activity and take from your car, things like that, just how to prevent package theft during the holiday season, things like that, information for the public to help keep us all safe so we can enjoy the holidays.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. Any questions?
Yeah, I got one. How's our homeless issue doing?
We're doing well. The SOP team has been doing well. I plan to bring some statistics to you here shortly. We've been out making a lot of contacts. You know, those that are seeking resources, we've been doing our best to link them with the resources that they need to help them get on their feet, whether that be housing or job assistance or mental health type programs. We've been doing a lot of that. And then also on the crime side of things, as that team is out there making contacts when there's crimes that are being committed, we're addressing those, making arrests. And again, I plan to bring statistics to you, here in the near future, but we want to establish this baseline. But I feel like the team has been very successful so far. We've had several kind of outside of the homeless, but proactive enforcement sweeps here locally. I think we've done this, just completed our third, where we've had extra patrolmen come into the area and just saturate the area and on strictly a crime prevention mode, if you will, targeting our high crime areas and really trying to make an impact in the community and send a message that if you're committing crime in Yucaipa, it won't be tolerated.
Yeah, certainly. I think that's a great message to push. Lawlessness won't be tolerated in Yucaipa. You mentioned the SOP team. We've mentioned it a few times now at the State of the City. We mentioned SOP team. For those of you who are not yet aware of our SOP team, we will be pushing information out soon relative to what our SOP team is. Truly a revolutionary concept coming out of City Hall and our police station to combat homelessness, specifically homeless crime, helping those who need help, and ensuring that justice finds those people who seek to undermine the laws of our society, specifically in our city. So be on the lookout for more information regarding our SOP team, hopefully very soon. Captain, thank you so much. We'll move on to our fire chief, Chief Malinowski.
Evening, Mayor and Council. So this will be your October monthly report. So we just fixed our response time coding issue, so we'll have that for next month. We didn't have time to validate the response times. Obviously, we need those to be valid. So we're currently at, for October, 7,039 calls for the year. We've seen an increase in October about 8%, And from last year at this time, a 10% increase, and that's been kind of the trend. Every month we've been increasing from 2022 just in perpetuity, so always getting busier. Another trend we're kind of seeing too is that Station 1 number has gone up to kind of how the mayor pointed out that Station 3 is busy. Station 1, for whatever reason, last couple months has been quite busy, on par with Station 3, and pretty much no abnormalities in the response types, mostly medical aids and a mix of other calls for us. We did have the privilege to go out to Crafton Hills for a couple hundred Girl Scouts and do the Allied Health Fair. So they all come up and they get to see what our local college Crafton can offer them in medical careers like EMT, paramedic, firefighting, radiology, nursing, stuff like that. And then we land the Firehawk and still the show. So it's kind of nice to get them all out there for that. And then October is Fire Prevention Month. So we get to do a lot of school activities. We do them year round, but especially in October. So we got to go to Dunlop Elementary, Art Christian Preschool. We did get to go to the Yucaipa Trunk or Treat with PD put on. That was super well attended. This is our second year that we've done a STEM leadership with Wildwood Christian, where we're giving them actual life skills, kind of that stuff where people say you should get that before you got out of high school. We're giving that to them now. So they get to do some live fire extinguisher, some stop the bleed, some 911 stuff, CPR at that high school level there. Also Wildwood Elementary Trunk or Treat. And then we did have a joint safety meeting with the school district in October. And just some of our significant incidents here that you all should have had SIs on. Structure fire, some freeway fires, traffic collision with extrication. And then sign up for training, we have, it's EMS fire department nerdy stuff, but we have a state and federal mandate to go to a new reporting system for electronic patient care. So we are ahead of that. And the CAL FIRE EMS program came down and developed EPCR, electronic patient care reporting for us, no charge to us. So we have that kind of redundancy where we're not reliable on the local county for that. So we kind of gives us a safety net and some more options with the department doing it. And then I'd like to invite you all and the public to our Uptown Toy Drive. So it'll be the third Uptown Toy Drive right there in front of the Uptown Park at the White Pack. And we'll have, in cooperation with Yucaipa and all the Uptown businesses, we'll have Santa, the parade engine, music, food, and stuff like that. So hope to see you guys there. And that's the end of the report, unless you have any questions.
Thank you, Chief. Questions of our fire chief? No? Outstanding working out there to see those kids at the elementary school. Really, I think you had mentioned, goodness, last year, the year before, that public safety being what it is, truly starting efforts to recruit, if you will, at elementary school levels. It sounds bizarre to hear either law enforcement or fire saying they're recruiting elementary school age children to a career in law enforcement or fire. But with that being said, I think everybody probably most people in the audience can remember the days of McGruff, the crime-fighting dog, and DARE, and Just Say No being a thing that was altogether common throughout the school year in our elementary schools. It's gone by the wayside. I think, if I'm speaking from my law enforcement perspective, I think we've kind of let the ball drop on that. If fire's picking it back up, certainly law enforcement can follow suit and rebuild that, forge that partnership with the children in our community before social media tells them that all cops are fill in the blank, or it's silly to get into public service. You're truly making a lasting impression on the kids, and you're being seen as that. You landed, like you said, you stole a show when you landed the Firehawk at the college for those Girl Scouts. So you'll probably see some applications in about 20 years flowing in for that. So
I hope so. Public, as you well know, public service is something to be proud of.
Absolutely.
So we convey it to them young, and hopefully they become us when they grow up.
There it is. Thank you, sir.
Did you run the 5K or the one?
I had the little kid, so just the one.
I know, I seen she beat you.
Well, totally embarrassed me, so I had to keep it to 1 mile.
Right. Well, good job on that. I appreciate you being out there.
And your staff as well. Thank you. I saw them out there as well, so perfect. Code enforcement, Mr. Matlock.
Thank you, all mayor and city council members. For October, code enforcement has also been pretty busy. 117 different cases were reported to code enforcement during this monthly period. I do want to note, kind of for that, it doesn't necessarily mean that we do 107 different complaints, or 117 complaints. It may be multiple for one property, but certainly 117 individual properties that code enforcement has to go visit. Of those, 107 of them were validated, and actually most of them have been resolved. Similar to kind of the discussion with the fire department update, overgrown vegetation has been kind of the #1 complaint with this month. As we get to the end of the year, October being kind of the fire heavy month, a lot of people's weeds are getting pretty big, and so that's the #1 complaint that we get. And we try to make sure that they abate it. Pictures from up above to down below kind of shows the change of one property and resolving that. Certainly other nuisances, trash and debris, and unpermitted construction kind of round out the top cases that we received. Code enforcement staff itself completed 292 different inspections with 126 citations issued. As part of it, they did do a comprehensive all-agency mobile home park inspection. So the comprehensive inspection is to meet our local enforcement agency under Title 25. So where code enforcement goes out and make sure that there's no violation. The all-agency is a different inspection that we do where we bring out fire department, police, building and safety, and code enforcement, and they walk through a park as well and look for different issues that try and nip it in the bud before it becomes a bigger issue in the park. And so that did occur this month as well. And then we do complete inspections of our chicken ranches, and no violations were reported with those. As part of the overall efforts, 33 other cases have been closed. Certainly the weed and landscaping abatement for fire protection was a pretty big push, as it usually is in the October month. And then I do want to also note, as we were talking about the SOP, the SOP program that we have, our unhoused liaison code enforcement officer was part of 102 different individual responses for that program this month. And lucky news is that of the different contacts she had, 7 people accepted services, and so hopefully are on a path to a much better life. And we'll certainly keep track of that, but they are making sure that we're providing resources, making sure that that problem is addressed, and making sure that those people have the resources that they need. And that concludes my report.
Thank you for the report, sir. Good report. Questions, comments of staff?
No.
Thank you, sir. All right, moving on to public comment. If there's any speakers who wish to be heard, there are speaker slips located in the back of the room. Please fill them out and hand them to our city clerk over here to my left. As a reminder, you have 3 minutes to speak on any subject, or rather any agenda item or open comment. The first public speaker would be Dr. Hanson Wong.
Hanson Wong, 35150 Court Street, Yucaipa, California. If you give me a second to make an announcement, and then I'll start on my conversation with you. So again, I want to commend the city staff and all the personnel that dealt with the turkey trot. Unfortunately, I was cooking, so I couldn't be there, but we almost doubled what we had last year, right? And so that's a great accomplishment, and so we should thank our city staff for all the work that they put into it, and it seems to have gone well. And we thank those of you who participated. Thank you.
Sold out, didn't you? You sold out?
I'm sorry?
You sold out.
Yes.
Yeah, we did.
That's great.
All right. So this year, we've gone through a lot. Tough times, hard times, and Mr. Mann and Mr. Graham set some of the groundwork for expectations and so on. So I'd like to bring some of those up. One is respect, and obviously there was some respect that weren't given both ways, and I think that's important. But as Mr. Mann can vouch, at the meeting where we discussed the Serrano project in a town hall meeting, because there was communications in both directions that allow for a better respect on both sides. And I think overall that meeting went really well. And I think I know we have a communication thing that Joe is going to bring up, but I think the communication between the city staff, the city council members, and the community is very important to continue. it was brought up by Mr. Mann and on some of the goals and stuff on transparency. I think it's very important to have the appropriate transparency, and I'll bring up more on one of the agenda items. Perception. Mr. Graham, in one of his talks, talk about perception. Even though it's not always reality, it's always important for everyone to understand there is a perception, and we need to have the perception in the most appropriate way as possible for the city and the residents. I realize that a lot of these things that the city council can do what they feel is best. But I like to remind both the city staff as well as the city manager and the city council members that just like, we have to respond to you, but you ultimately are working for a better city, a better place to live, and so we need to remind both of ourselves that that's our common goal, and we have to strive for that and not get distracted by other things. So ultimately, again, we work for the residents of the city, whether we're in the committees, on the city council, or otherwise. Again, want to thank you all for this year. I'm looking forward to see how you summarize the year and what we're going to do for next year. But I think it's very important that we have this communication that can go both directions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Wong. Any other public speakers, ma'am? Thank you. Moving on to consent agenda. Consent agenda consists of items 1 through 7. Is there any member of the council that wishes to remove an item for further discussion?
I'll move approval of the consent agenda.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Duncan.
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilman Thorpe. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries and items 1 through 7 are passed. Moving on to mayor and council member business reports. Is there any member of the council that has any business to report?
No.
I do.
Sir.
We sold out. Did I tell you that?
We did, yeah.
Did I tell you
That was
that? Did you guys hear that? We sold out on
I had
Turkey
a,
Trot. There's it was amazing, the children that ran so fast. I couldn't believe it. I think we had, the first place was, where's Heather? Is she gone? First place we had, they were 12 years old. Yeah, it was incredible. Anyways, thank you guys for that.
Gotta try to figure out a way to bottle the energy of a 12-year-old and sell it. And we made millionaires. That's the healthy Yucaipa. Find a way to do that. Okay? No, phenomenal work by all involved. Megan, your staff knocked it out of the park again. You continue to impress. I'm sure I'm speaking for the rest of the council, but this council, everything you seem to put together is golden, and we couldn't thank you enough for truly, really every festival, every fair, everything you put on embodies the community spirit that I think everybody on this dais and everybody in this audience is striving to have here. So thank you. Please, I've said it before, whenever I say you did a great job, you say it's your staff. But when I go to your staff and say they did a great job, they say, well, it's all because of your leadership. So somebody's responsible, and I think it truly is a team effort, so thank you. I had a colleague of mine who I went to the academy with. Yeah, absolutely. A colleague of mine called me the night before the Turkey Trot and said, who's in charge of it? And I gave him your information, and he said, oh, well, it's sold out. But it's a public park. You can't stop me from going there and running. I said, no, certainly you can go and run. You're just not going to get a T-shirt or a medal because we don't have enough. But so just know, I think you had more people there that even didn't pay. Certainly the sold out sign on the door didn't stop people from wanting to go and be part of that activity. So I think expansion is in our future, so great work. Also, Winterfest. I mean, it was one night, and I said it on the stage, I'm gonna say it again, how lovely it is to have a Winterfest where it's actually cold. Like, celebrating Winterfest when you're sweating is it's kind of like an oxymoron. How, is it winter? It was cold. People commented on how cold it was. Santa Claus did an amazing job. He truly larger than life Santa Claus. And now listen, there's no little ones in the audience. I'm not saying that Councilman Thorpe is Santa Claus. But what I am saying is I've never seen Councilman Thorpe and Santa Claus in the same room at the same time. Not ever. So it's kind of, one of those things. No, Santa Claus was larger than life and did a great job. I heard nothing but positive compliments from everybody, from the vendors to our businesses on the boulevard, and then everybody who was in attendance. So phenomenal work. And if Active Church is in attendance, or anybody you know, or you go to Active Church, man, how great were they? They put on a great show with their band, and just their presence was awesome. So that's all I have to report. If anybody else has anything, no. We'll move on. Item number 8. This is going to be Youth Advisory Committee appointments. It says Megan Wolf. Is it Megan? Sarah? Megan?
I'd like to introduce Sarah Martinez, the Community Services Recreation Superintendent, who has done a phenomenal job with this committee, may I add.
We just get amazing young people who apply, so we get lucky. So good evening, Mayor and City Council. It is truly my honor to be with you this evening and introduce Ms. Kim Pham. She is a recent applicant to the Youth Advisory Committee, but she's not new to the committee as she's been attending meetings since last year and has been eager and wanting to join, but we didn't have any openings. But now that we do, she has joined, at least through the recommendation from the committee. So we are recommending appointment from from today through September 1st of 2025. And with tonight's appointment, she would make number 7, and so we'd be recruiting for 6 more. So, Kim is a sophomore at Yucaipa High School. She has a 4.5 GPA. I'm gonna say that one more time in case anybody back here did not hear me. 4.5 GPA. Yes, we have to clap. Okay. She is a student leader and is currently the Commissioner of Community Service at Yucaipa High School, which provides Kim the opportunity to positively impact the Yucaipa community through volunteer efforts on and off campus. So needless to say, the committee and I have no doubt that she will be a great fit and will continue to do great things within the community. So with that, I'm just gonna go ahead and turn it over to Kim because she's gonna give you a better overview than I ever could, but she's a phenomenal person. She has been eager to join. We will be lucky to have her, and we welcome you aboard.
Good evening, Council. I'm extremely grateful for obtaining the opportunity to be an active member of the Youth Advisory Committee, and I'm thankful for everyone who has assisted me throughout the process, like Ms. Martinez. I've always had a passion for serving others and the community. Not only does taking actions enhance the society, but it's also a wonderful act that can make someone's day. I found ways to immerse myself in places where I can create a positive impact. All through 9th grade, I volunteered at the local library, and since this summer, I've been volunteering at the Yucaipa Animal Shelter. In high school, I'm a part of the student government and have the position of Commissioner of Community Service. With my active role in the community, I make sure I'm always leaving a positive impact behind and helping others in every possible way. Even when school piles up, it's never a challenge for me to find time to serve the community. If I am appointed to the committee, I would love to continue spreading the positivity by planning volunteering opportunities and events for Yucaipa. Furthermore, I'm eager to work with individuals who have the same motives as me, and through that process, I hope to strengthen my leadership and my communication abilities. Thank you for your consideration and time.
So that concludes our report, unless you have any questions for any of us. And we do have one member of the Youth Advisory Committee behind me, Ms. Jaseni Ramirez. So if you have any committee questions, she's also present.
Thank you, ma'am. Phenomenal presentation. Kim, I've said it before, I think I'm starting to sound like a broken record when it comes to members of the Youth Advisory Committee, but I didn't know GPAs could go that high. I'm so proud to know that your foundation in what is certainly going to be an amazing life is being established here in Yucaipa. I positive that we're going to see amazing things from you in your life. And when you reach the top, don't forget about the community that you helped along the way, because I'm certain you're going straight to the top. You're articulate, and I don't see any reason why you're not going to do amazing things. So I will enthusiastically motion your approval. Is there a second?
I'll second. Sorry.
Is there any
I had
further
to jump in there.
discussion?
You presented phenomenally. Your
did.
communication skills are great, your penmanship's great, you speak well, we can hear you, you make eye contact. So the next thing, run for city council. You can do
Yeah.
it.
I think you guys certainly have the drive. The youngest city councilman in the history was, I think, 34 or 33 when he was elected. So you can beat me for certain. I'm confident that. We have a first and a second. Anything from the left side of the dais?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Ma'am, we'd love to have a photograph with you.
Tuck in some more.
Is this guy over here? Mom, did you want to come in here with a picture with your daughter? You are certainly, you've done very well. Hats off to you. You raised such an amazing young lady.
Yeah, stay in there.
All right. 1, 2, 3.
The future is bright for Yucaipa. All right, moving on to item number 9. This is by Ms. Megan Wolf, Healthy Yucaipa appointment.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. The Healthy Yucaipa Committee currently has one vacant at-large appointed position due to the resignation of James Jaton. The city advertised a notice of vacancy and received 3 applications. This evening, all 3 applicants are in attendance and can come down to the podium should you request them to speak. Applicant Gary Jacobs, applicant Marla Miller, and applicant Matthew Underwood. This concludes my report. Should you have any questions, the applicants or myself are here to answer them.
Thank you, ma'am. We do have one public speaker on the matter, Dr. Matthew Underwood.
Good evening, Council. I did interviews on Zoom all day today for residency interviews, so I guess it's my turn. And I wish I could be half as articulate as Kim, who I think just left. But anyway, I've lived in Yucaipa almost 25 years. I'm an emergency physician because that's the most fun. But what I'm really believe in is preventive primary care. The pandemic, coronavirus is over, but we're still in an epidemic of poor diet, bad choices, drugs, alcohol, addiction, mental health, inactivity. So my qualifications, I guess, other than being an emergency physician, is I've been involved in youth sports for about 20 years. I've coached basketball from grade 1 up through grade 12. I coached Meredith's kids. I continue to coach middle school and high school cross country, all volunteer. And then I not only talk the talk, but I walk the walk. I don't think could be a single person in Yucaipa that has run more, biked more, mountain biked more, hiked more, walked my dogs more in and around Yucaipa. I compete in triathlons and running events at a pretty high level all across the country. As a matter of fact, I'll be in Sacramento for the California International Marathon this week. So if there's a need for an emergency physician and a little self-obsessed endurance athlete, I'd be welcome to serve on the committee. I'd be happy to give community talks, write newsletters, have forums or whatever I could help out with. And the other candidates, I'm sure, are very impressive as well. And so if you don't pick me, I'm sure everything will be in great hands. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Mr. Gary Jacobs? Ms. Miller, I'm going to call and ask you if you want to speak as well, just for the sake of thoroughness. All right.
I had not expected to speak, but good evening, everyone. I arrived here from Misawa, Japan in the early 1980s. It was like being in Bangor, Maine, Japan. I had sweaters, long coats, etc., and Southern California is the place to be. I was the public affairs officer at Norton Air Force Base. I did such a good job, they closed the base. That was in 1994. Healthy Yucaipa, I am now 80 pounds lighter thanks to working out with the folks at the Shearer Center. And I want to thank them and the city for making such a fine effort there. I learned about it through a publication from the city. And years ago, I was the second one in my family to go to college, and could I choose majors or what? One was journalism, so I was a newspaper reporter for a while, talk about newsletters and whatnot. I can do that. Plus, I was a public affairs officer. And the other one was philosophy, so if you want to talk about what Plato or Aristotle did, I'm the man for you. Steve Martin, by the way, was another fellow philosopher. In terms of healthy Yucaipa, you know, what I like to do is push education in terms of crime prevention. I'm retired from the San Bernardino Police Department as a civilian. The more education you have, the less likely you are to be a criminal or victim of crime. And the opposite is true as well. Most guys in prison read at about grade 3 or 4 level, functional illiteracy. In terms of health, it means the more you know, the better off you are, right? We have a young lady, more women than men now get college educations. Why is that? We don't really know, we don't really understand. But anyway, I think the previous speaker was right. No matter who you get, I think you're going to wind up with a good candidate, and I wish you all well in your decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Miller?
Hello, Mayor and fellow council members. My name is Marla Miller, and I would like to rescind my name from this because obviously Dr. Underwood is very well capable in your hands.
Thank you, ma'am. All right. Now comes the difficult decision of appointing one. I still have 3 applicants in front of me. One of 3 applicants, even though she rescinded, your name is on the list, ma'am. Is there somebody who'd like to make a nomination of?
I'll make a nomination to Underwood.
Did you withdraw your name? Is that what you did?
Okay, so we have 2 then. Two applications, Dr. Underwood and Mr. Jacobs, Mr. Gary Jacobs. And we have a nomination for Dr. Underwood. Is there a second?
Yeah, I nominate.
I'll second Dr. Underwood. Is there any other nominations? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
No.
Motion carries 3 to 2. Dr. Underwood, welcome to the Healthy Yucaipa, or excuse me, yes, the Healthy Yucaipa Committee. Would you come down for a quick photograph?
him in the middle. There you go.
And Mr. Jacobs, your willingness to serve our community didn't go unnoticed. I appreciate your application. There will be more vacancies eventually. This is something that goes up. In the meantime, the Healthy Yucaipa Committee meetings are open to the public. Your input is certainly welcomed. We appreciate your willingness to step into service for our community. So thank you.
Yeah, we'd love to see you there.
All right, moving on to department reports. Item number 10. This is going to be adoption of resolution number 23-46, and this presentation is going to be by our city clerk.
Excuse me one second. Can I thank you so much for coming out and filling out the application. Yeah,
Ms. Miller.
Ms. Miller. Thank you so much for everything.
Indeed. Madam City Clerk, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the City Council, item 10 for your consideration tonight was continued from the September 25th and November 13th City Council meetings. This item is a resolution adopting general rules and procedures for the conduct of commissions and committees here in the City of Yucaipa, as well as reestablishing committees, their functions, and setting their meeting dates and times. This item is something that we've been working on for the last several months and was intended to be just a cleanup item. Back in August, all of the directors met with the city manager, and we went down the list of all of the committees. We looked at the ones that should be ad hoc committees. We looked at the list of standing committees, and we just kind of determined that we needed to do a little bit of cleanup there. We also worked with the city attorney's office to put together general rules and procedures for the conduct of commissions and committees to have one document that would be applicable to all the commissions and committees, and that's up to date with best practices. This document has now been modified a few different times. We incorporated language which addressed Mayor Pro Tem Duncan's concerns after the September 25th council meeting. Based on the feedback that we received from Councilman Thorpe at the November 13th council meeting, we revised the committee roster list to keep the Public Arts Committee, but we moved it to an ad hoc committee instead. We met with Councilmember Venable to discuss his concerns and modified the general rules and procedures to incorporate some of his changes as well. Tonight, staff is recommending that the City Council adopt resolution number 2023-46, approving general rules and procedures for the conduct of commissions and committees here in the City of Yucaipa. And I have the city attorney sitting next to me. He drafted the general rules and procedures. If the City Council has any specific questions, I'm sure he'd be happy to assist and answer any of those questions. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. We have a public comment by Dr. Hanson Wong.
Hanson Wong, 35150 Court Street, Yucaipa, California. So I think it's a great idea to organize things. And so the intent that our city clerk and whoever else on the staff worked on this has great intent. And to put the committees in the proper categories and deleting certain ones, adding certain ones, I think are what needed to be done. But I do have some concerns still that have not been addressed, okay? I'll head for a minor one first. And I think it's corrected, but I didn't see the changes. Mr. Mann said it would be corrected, and that has to do with the mobile home committee that meets twice a year. Basically, attending one of their meetings, they just want to be heard about what their living conditions are like and so on. And Mr. Mann was there, the Mayor Pro Tem was there, and they needed an outlet not just on rent, but how they were perceived and acted upon as a group. So we need to make sure that there's somebody that takes records of that and brings it back to the City Council so the City Council can hear the different problems that could occur. I need to continue on this. We talked about respect when I talked earlier. I think it's very disrespectful since there is no change. There is nothing that I've looked in the past that have been an error that was created by a city council member by appointing a committee member or a commissioner. And without that, I see no reason for change except maybe to cause a little ruckus because you don't like the one I pick, I'm going to vote against it, or why didn't you vote for mine? I think that each of the city council members should be allowed to appoint and not just nominate, okay? And then the ones at large you vote on and so on. So I strongly am against that particular concept of it. The committee, the way that people act, I think should apply to anybody that goes to the meetings, not just the committee members. A public member that makes comments should follow the rules and the decorum of it. City council members that attend should also follow it. So that conduct, the rules of conduct should apply to anyone who attends these meetings and not just isolated to a certain portion of the committee. I think that's also wrong. Transparency. You know, we talked about transparency, and somehow there isn't the transparency to remove somebody. It's at the behest of the city council, and you can get rid of anybody without notification. How will I know what is wrong and allow me to be kicked off a committee? So I strongly protest that as well.
Thank you, sir. Mr. City Manager, did you want to address the comments made by Dr. Wong?
Certainly. In respect to his first comment regarding the Mobile Home Park Committee, yes. As with all of our committees, the committee will be staffed. A staff person will be assigned to staff that committee, and notes will be taken and brought back. I guess the first portion of that question was in regards to what would be discussed. That section, under goal, it states, and I'll read it, the goal of the Mobile Home Park Committee is to regularly provide information related to the city's mobile home rent stabilization program and to engage in an open exchange of information on matters concerning mobile home parks in the city of Yucaipa. So yeah, it's not just to talk about rent stabilization. It is also a forum for concerns and issues to be addressed of any kind pertaining to mobile home parks. Relating to Dr. Wong's other comments, I think at the core of his concerns related to what rules apply to appointed committee members versus council members is maybe a difference in understanding of what a city committee is, right? City committees exist to advise the city council and to assist in the furtherance of established city goals, right? Members are appointed to city committees. They serve at the will of the city council. They are not independent groups, nonprofits in the community, clubs in the community. No one has a right to serve on a city committee. The city council as a whole gets to decide who represents it, who advises it, who assists it in furthering the goals of the city. So I think that's an important definition to understand about what a city committee is. In terms of appointments being made by each individual council member getting to appoint one person versus each council member nominating someone and the council as a whole voting, doing it via nomination and the council as a whole voting is more in line with the philosophy that when you're appointed to a committee, your job is to advise the city council as a whole. You serve the city council as a whole, not one individual council member. You're not to be beholden to the one person who appointed you, but rather to think of the good of the whole community and advise the city council in its entirety. So that is the thinking and the philosophy behind that.
Mayor?
Sir.
If I could add just a little bit of legal flavor to the city manager's response to the public comment. When we're looking at how the city conducts business, I don't see 5 individuals sitting at the dais. I see 1 city council. The city council doesn't have the authority to, individually, city council members don't have the authority to give direction to city staff or to take any other action under the municipal code or under state law. You act as a body. The intent behind the change to the membership requirement, the appointment requirement, is to reflect the reality of your legal status, which is you act as a group, which is a majority of the city council. That being said, in the interest of collegiality and democracy, usually you will have nominations occur, and unless there is a significant issue with someone who is being proposed, most city councils will respect the nomination of their colleague and expect that respect in return. As it stands now, the city council already has the authority as a group to remove any member of any city advisory commission. So the city council's ability to control the composition of advisory committees already exists. We're simply cleaning it up and reflecting what I believe is the best practice for how municipal government should run. So that's why we put it that way. If there's additional language that you may want to put in there, we can of course talk about that. But I wanted to add the legal discussion to it as well.
I'm curious to know how many times in the city's history has somebody been removed without cause, if you will, just because, so flagrantly, as Dr. Wong had kind of mentioned.
I can tell you I've served in many cities with very strong political differences. It's incredibly rare to remove someone simply because of a political disagreement. It's usually something much more significant than that, Mayor.
Thank you. Moving towards his comment relative to public comment, if somebody is sitting in at a meeting, a member of the public, a non-seated member of the committee, tell me about the rules that govern their behavior. Is it similar to that of this council's rules during council meetings, where they are? I know we have a chairman of the committee meetings. Are they? Does the same rules and decorum apply at these committees?
Actually, under Article 7, Section 1, it requires that every commission and committee utilize Rosenberg's Rules of Order, which you'll recall from March of this year, are the same rules of order that were adopted by the City Council. And it does state, and the City Council's own adopted procedures, which shall be the rules of order and procedure for the transaction of business. The City Council's own adopted rules of procedure address any disruption that may be caused by members of the public. So, in fact, the rules for every single public meeting of this agency, if you adopt this, will be consistent and the same, which would be a welcome thing for those of us required to know them.
Certainly. Yeah, and Dr. Wong, I believe that is, from my understanding of reading this, and from what our city attorney said, that applies to city councilmen as well, city staff as well. I think if we have a city staff member disrupting meetings, that's an altogether different problem that needs to be addressed by city staff management. And same with your elected officials who sit as liaisons to committees. Thank you for the report, or the report. Any questions of staff or of council to staff?
I have one. I have a problem with this one. Do you go to your city or to us when you appoint somebody in a position that you have open?
I'm sorry, do I do what?
So you're telling us that we're going to bring somebody up and it's going to be a vote for all of us.
Correct.
Right? Do you do that for your staff? Do you bring that up in front of anybody else, or is that your choice?
It's my choice.
Right.
Right.
And that should be our choice too, I
Well,
believe.
appointees are not staff.
Oh, I understand that.
Right.
I totally understand that. But that's something that we get to do on our own, you know. And if our choice isn't the right choice and stuff, like I told you before, I'm all for, remove them if need be, or anything like that and stuff. But I think that if our choice is to appoint somebody, and if they're not doing the job for the whole city, then absolutely remove them on that. But I still 100% believe that we should have our choice to put anybody else that we want.
I respectfully disagree. I think we do have the choice. We, in the collective sense, the council, have the choice to appoint who we want based on a majority affirmative vote. With that being said, there are members, or there are committees that exist where members of the council appoint a person. Well, I think mostly commissioners. But there are members, I think of Health Yucaipa, for example. Let me move back to Health Yucaipa. I appointed Mr. Disselberg. He is my appointee. With the affirmative vote of two of my colleagues, he was appointed in December of last year. Our city attorney made a comment as well. If he's doing something that violates one of our rules, certainly it would be hard for me to object for the council having facts to determine that he violated some rules to dismiss him. However, I would be vocal. Yeah, vocal, that's a good word. I'd be vocal if one of my colleagues on the dais attempted to remove an appointee of mine simply because they didn't like the way that person did business. That's my position on the matter. I think we do, Councilman Venable, I think we do have the ability to appoint people to represent the council. And I think I don't like districts. I think that was a silly mandate that the state imposed on us. I've had members of the community who I've tried to talk to and assist, and they mentioned that, well, you're not my councilman. I voted for somebody else in a different district. And that's unfortunate because I don't sit here represent the 4th district of Yucaipa. I represent the citizens of Yucaipa in my mind. If we're able to find a way that we, as a council, have appointees to committees, that's a way that we can get back to a citywide view of matters coming before the council. That's my position. Any further comment?
So basically, historically, we have been allowed to recommend or appoint someone, and we've always voted on that. We could, at any time, based on the way that we've been doing it for 11 years that I know of, actually for the duration of the city's existence, is you have an appointee, you want someone on the planning commission or park and rec committee now, right? It's a committee now, right?
Still a commission.
Park and rec committee, or is it a commission?
It's still a commission.
Oh, it's still a commission.
It'll remain a commission.
So you want someone on that commission, and so you nominate someone. I want so and so to be on the commission, and then we vote. We've been doing that all along. We did that with your appointee and my appointee on the Healthy Yucaipa. We said we want this person, and all in favor, and it's been 5-0, depending on who's there that night. It's always been that way, so I don't see that changing, although it could become a situation where if you want to be vindictive, you could say, we're allowed to talk to one other council member, and now all you need is one other vote, and you can say no, right? I mean, but I don't think we would do that. In fact, when we decided to go to the districts, and we were forced into that by an attorney in Lancaster or Palmdale that was suing all the cities, the council at that time agreed that even though we have a district, we don't make decisions based on what's good for our district. We made decisions based on what's good for the city overall. We made a commitment to that as a council. But getting back to your point, I mean, it's always been that way. You appoint somebody, you nominate somebody, and we vote. And that's the way, with this new rule, that's the way it'll continue to be, right? But in fact, right now, if we don't like your appointee and 3 of us say they need to go, they go. That's the way it is now, even with our existing rules. I think that's kind of a rotten thing to do, but it is what it is. I mean, but I don't think this is going to change anything, is what I'm saying.
Councilman Gardner? Is there a motion to approve as written?
I make a motion to approve the item.
We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Duncan.
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilman Thorpe. Any further discussion? I don't make sure I didn't skip any public comment. All right, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries 5-0. Moving on to item number 11. This is by our Director of Government Affairs, Joe Perdetto, adoption of resolution number 2023-58, establishing the Yucaipa Communications Plan.
Mayor and Honorable City Council, Joe Perdetto, your Director of Governmental Affairs and Public Information Officer. A little background: in March, you passed a sunshine ordinance, and later in April, you passed a series of goals. Both of those actions included a directive to staff to develop a communications plan. That is what's being presented for you for consideration tonight. Before I get started, I love communication and words and how people understand each other, and I want to tell a story about, this is my daughter. She looks cute, but I'm pretty sure she's out to get me. I went to go pick her up from school recently, and I brought her home, and she likes to watch TV as soon as she can. Actually, kids don't watch TV anymore, they watch YouTube. And she wants to watch YouTube, and I said, you can watch YouTube, but first you have to do your homework. Okay, 30 minutes later, she comes back to me and she says, Dad, I'm done with my homework. Can I watch YouTube? Okay, fine, go ahead. A little while later, my wife comes home, and knowing Dad was in charge, she's a little suspect of the list of items that need to get done, and she goes through the kids' homework, and she says, Isla, you didn't do your homework. And my wife gives me a look, and to save my own hide, I look at her and said, she told me she finished her homework. And that kid said, that's not what I said. I thought to myself, kid, Christmas is coming up and Santa's going to remember that one. Here's another one. A student, second graders take everything literally. It's a math problem. He gets it right. But the second question says, how do you know? Show your thinking. He shows his thinking. Mom tells son, second grader again, put the soap in the bathroom. He followed the instructions to a T, but still failed to do the job. In fact, based on this quality of work, he might have a future in law. Maybe he can work for Stephen Graham in the future.
He said law, not law enforcement.
So, a little with that, we'll move on to the actual purpose of this plan. And another thing, I like watching Chef Ramsay's Hell's Kitchen. It's a great show. You learn a lot about leadership from Chef Ramsay and also by watching the competitors compete. Very often when a team is underperforming, it's because they're not communicating well, they're not in collaboration, and Chef Ramsay will yell at them in between other expletives. Talk to each other. We see the teams that do well, they're coordinated, they're talking to each other, they're communicating. We see this in sports as well. Anybody who's watched a sports team knows when a team is on the same page, they're performing well, they're winning. And communication is very much like that. Effective communication is more than just sharing, exchanging information. Communication comes from the Latin root to share. Effective communication is about building shared understanding, working from the same page. The stories I tell highlight the importance of effective communication, as you know, which is why you directed us to develop this plan. The city is growing. We have 55,000 residents, a growing business community. More than ever, we need the city council, city staff, residents, and businesses all working on the same page to carry out your vision, your goals of making Yucaipa a safe place, the best place to raise a family, to do business, and to play. So the purpose of this communications plan is really to improve the effectiveness of the messages we deliver from City Hall, including the residents and businesses and the business at City Hall, and being more effective in everything we do. The plan outlines 4 objectives. We want to help accomplish and further your goals. We want to go ahead and work to improve transparency and accessibility at City Hall. We'll go into a little bit more what I mean by that later on. We want to equip you and city staff with the information you need to do your job, because you're out in the community, staff's out in the community. It makes you look more competent and capable when you have answers and accurate information at hand. And we want to engage the residents and businesses in that work, because as a city of 55,000, we need to be working more than our city staff is capable of doing. And I'll outline some of the campaigns on how we will make that work. So guiding principles for this plan are transparency, responsiveness, and accessibility. So transparency is a lot of being able to show our homework. For staff coming to you, showing how we arrive at a certain decision or recommendation. It's not about making sure that everyone agrees unanimously with everything, but showing the variables that we considered and then letting that information be apparent for everyone for useful dialogue. Responsiveness goes into being very customer friendly. When somebody calls City Hall and they get a response right away, that makes them feel good. That makes them respect and really appreciate what you do, what staff does. When somebody uses the app, reports an issue, and it gets fixed right away, they go tell their family and friends. That's good customer service, and that's kind of what goes to responsiveness. And accessibility, in the way we use that is we want to make City Hall approachable. We want to communicate in written and verbal communications in a way that doesn't require an engineering or legal background for the average person to understand and participate. I do want to go over and specify, we had a couple of observations. Councilman Thorpe, you observed that the PD runs an excellent social media platform. We talked about how the turkey trot was sold out. I want to point out that the Community Services Department and PD have their own social media presence, and it's working really well. This plan is not to take over those, to change those, but really to supplement them by doing what hasn't been done as well, and that's focusing on the goals and the work of the City Council and City Hall. So this plan applies specifically to your goals. It's structured in a way that we identify several specific campaigns against which we will measure our success. And then there's some strategies and best practices that are just about improving our systems overall. This plan does build on some recent successes. Although you directed staff to develop this plan earlier this year, staff has been working all year to improve our communications. We've launched a number of things under the mayor's leadership. We launched a video series that has developed a lot of good feedback. Here's some comments from the most recent white truck video. The mayor can tell some of the comments you've received are just right here. A number of people who just, whether they like the situation or not, they appreciate the city coming out and explaining the history, how we got to where we are, and what was to happen next. We've also launched an internal newsletter that goes out every 2 weeks that informs staff. Not all staff have the time to watch council meetings or participate to be here, but they're interested to know what decisions you're making. More importantly, a lot of our frontline community service staff get questions from the public that this newsletter now helps them answer, so that gives them more confidence in doing their job. Planning has launched a couple of new tools. Some of the best practices we'll outline is communicating with a lot of visual information. So some of these new tools include a project map, where if people want to see what projects are coming and background information is visually available on this map. And there's also Story Map, which combines visual images and narrative. We've launched and held a few community meetings. We had one on the Serrano Estates potential acquisition, bear safety, mobile homes, and the campaigns in here call for many more of those. And then in October, we had the State of the City, and I'm sure many of you got similar feedback, but there's folks that go to these kinds of events all over the place all the time, and they said that this particular State of the City was one of the best that they've been to, not just in Yucaipa, but in their history of attending those types of events. So this communication plan will build on those successes. This here is an overview of the 7 campaigns we're proposing and how they correlate to your goals. I will say that how we landed on these specific campaigns is by looking at your goals, identifying the highest priorities, and then trying to associate them to what we think the public will have the most general interest in. We'll go through each of them a little quickly here. So the first set of goals relating to public safety, first off, we have the homeless strategic plan that you recently approved. This campaign will be about building awareness on that. In that plan is some components about public education. So the measurements on that are included in there, with ultimately the goal being reducing homelessness. So that will be what we call an evergreen campaign. We'll be launching very shortly here a big broadcast of the plan with some video introduction to the plan and some education that should be coming very soon. And then all year long, we'll be running updates and on the progress and in getting people engaged in how to help some more. And the mayor talked about the importance of preparation. We have many opportunities for the public to participate in our city, either through Citizens on Patrol, CERT, Neighborhood Watch. We have a lot of opportunities. We don't have as many public safety professionals on the street to be everywhere they need to be in a city of our size. So by training the public, getting them involved, we're helping have eyes and ears for our professionals to help make their job easier. So this campaign will be evergreen. We'll measure by how many more volunteers we get over a 12-month period. Road maintenance is another one of your goals. We have our pavement management program coming up for our major overhaul. This will be our opportunity to explain to the public how road health is determined, how we prioritize maintenance, and how we budget for that, because we don't have infinite resources. So this will be our opportunity to be transparent in showing the public how we prioritize, how much money we have, and having a dialogue on how that meets their expectations and helping you make your decision. And then pothole reporting, this is something that we've started earlier this year, is pushing the app. This kind of formalizes this. Although it says pothole reporting, it's really about pushing the app and getting people to report all manner of issues in the city. But most importantly, people use it, associate it with potholes. Economic development. One of the things that makes Yucaipa unique is our rural hometown feel, and small businesses help contribute to that in an important way. The research shows that small businesses contribute more to the economy than just revenue, because those business owners tend to be involved, volunteering and donating to local causes. So by doing a Shop Local campaign, we can have a win-win scenario where we help build our unique community and support our local businesses. And then 2 big projects that are coming up is we have the Wine Country Specific Plan. The EIR will be hitting the streets very soon. So one of the campaigns is an aggressive education to share with the community the history of how the city determined to take this approach, where we are in the process, what comes next, what we stand to gain, what we stand to lose. And also the city budget. In the last budget cycle, we learned that the city was running a budget deficit, structural deficit. The staff is working on a plan to reach structural balance, and we're gonna run an aggressive outreach campaign to help the public understand where we are, what some of our proposals are to fix it, so that we can get feedback, so that you can hear the public sentiment and better make your decisions. So best practices, again, we really want to focus on using plain language and making everything easy for anyone to understand and engage, and we want to use visual tools to help people understand concepts and participate. And strategies, we outline a number of strategies to constantly improve what we're doing. This is an inaugural plan, so a lot of it's going to be trial and error, getting it better. We'll update it every year with your goals, and every year we'll do more of what works and a little less of what doesn't. Some of those strategies involve developing a media-friendly reputation, being responsive to media, getting answers to them and supporting them with their inquiries. Developing a two-way communication on social media. A lot of governments don't necessarily like engaging on social media, but if you're putting information out, people expect that they should be able to post and get answers to questions. So trying to be proactive in communicating there. Delivering information in multiple formats, video, again, audio, written, in addition to normal channels. Hosting more community events, continuing to engage employees in internal communication, and as we learned with Hillary, being active and ready for any emergency situation to keep the public involved and engaged and educated are some of the most important strategies that we'll plan to continue to pursue. So again, the plan is really about trying to be effective in our communications because we don't have infinite resources and the city is growing and we want to be effective in engaging the community to help build Yucaipa in that community that we all want, that place we want to raise our families, do business, and live and play. So with that, I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, sir. Before we move forward with questions, we'll go ahead and call up our public speakers. They might have some more questions that we can have answered before the call for a vote. So our first speaker is Dr. Hanson Wong, followed by Mrs. Colleen Wong, and finally, Ms. Denise Work.
Hi again. Hanson Wong, 35150 Court Street, Yucaipa, California. So I think, like I mentioned earlier, the communication is a great thing. It allows us to have a two-way conversation rather than comments at the city council meeting and then comments from the city council. The only thing I have a question about on the deck that he presented was the wine country specific plan. I'm not sure that's gone through the Planning Commission, and the only reason I even mention that is because it does involve changing or doing bonus densities in a sense, in addition to changing the general plan in order to fit in the incentives. And the incentives, I think, should be given to those who are raising the wine grapes and helping us build that type of, platform if that's what we want. But I think just to have it described in the communication plan and present it out without having it go through planning committee, but that's it's whatever way you want to do it. I just need to know how we're going to process this particular area through. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Mrs. Colleen Wong.
Colleen Wong, 35150 Court Street in Yucaipa. I too wanted to bring up the wine specific plan. In terms of communication, it seems like this has not been communicated well in this town. I would say that probably, 80–90% of this town has not made its ideas known as to this plan. Certainly, it has not been well communicated to the community what your intentions are. I wanted to remind you that you have a petition in your possession. 1,200 citizens of this city signed their names to it, asking you not to have high-density housing on the North Bench. Most of us in this community live here because we like the rural aspects of this area and would like to see it remain so. And certainly I would like to hear it communicated much better to the community at large so that we all have a say in how our city is taken forward.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Denise Work?
Good evening. I hope you all had a good Thanksgiving. Denise Work, 37202 Lime Kiln Drive, Yucaipa. My only comment regarding this is all those items, who's going to argue with a campaign for reporting potholes and all those other items that are on there? So I'm kind of concerned that that money is going to be spent and there's going to be a campaign, and a campaign implies in favor of one thing or another rather than just being informative. So if there's going to be a campaign to inform the citizens about the wine country specific plan, I hope it will be complete and actually be transparent, and that perhaps we could get some visuals with overlays that show what it's going to look like, what it's like now, the idea is, what it's going to look like, and the densities and that sort of thing. So I would like for that to be seen. And then as well as what it would look like, not all the properties can be built out. I mean, there's, let's say 80 acres, but you couldn't put homes on the whole 80 acres because it's not all buildable. You might have a hillside, you might have a blue line stream, that sort of thing. So that property owner is going to get credit for and be able to build 80 houses. That's kind of the trade-off if they will put in the vineyards. So I want that to be seen as well. For instance, Serrano Estates, it was approved for 33 homes. That's what I would like to see, what it would look like if we did not have the wine country specific plan, and then the truthfulness about how many homes will be allowed and what those densities will look like. Also, traffic flows are a big concern for me. They were when I was on the committee and have remained so. The other thing, after 2 years on that committee, I never got an answer. What does the water look like for the difference between housing and agriculture? Is there more water being used, less water? We don't have the capability at this point, I don't think, to have the water to be used, gray water. I don't think we have the ability to use that for agriculture at this point. That would take some doing, I think, and some money, and I want to know where that money's coming from. And also, are the developers going to have to pay for, in advance, all of the traffic, I can't even think of the word, the mitigations, all of the mitigations that are going to have to be, traffic will have to be mitigated for all of that traffic that will come in.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so.
Mr. Mayor?
So my question is to you, Mr. City Manager, is this presentation used these initiatives as an example of things we were going to be doing better at communicating? Am I recognizing the concern, as it was mentioned in the proposal, of the presentation, the wine country specific plan? Did you want to address these questions now?
Please.
Say again?
I don't think it'd be appropriate to address specific questions about the wine country specific plan. There will be a time for that. But I would like, if it's okay, to address a couple of the comments that were made.
Please.
I think both Ms. Wong and Ms. Work are absolutely correct in saying that, I think staff agrees that in the past, details of this plan and other things were not adequately communicated. And it's something that we hope to rectify. It really hit home, and I've mentioned this before, it hit home to me that when the Serrano Estates project came before the council last August or September. While that project was not part of the wine country specific plan area, it was designed to conform with the vision of what the wine country specific plan might be. And there had been a very extensive process with the committee for, I don't know, over 2 years before that project came. And it was amazing how many members of the community up to that point were not aware of the wine country specific plan concept, right? People who live on the North Bench who were drawn into the issue because of that specific project, the Toronto Estates project, is what caught their attention. But up to that point, we're not aware of the much bigger major initiative of the wine country specific plan. And so that's a perfect example of why we think this communication plan is important and why we have identified what we think are major campaigns. And, you know, campaign in this sense is not, you know, political. It's not advocating. It's an effort around one thing to get information out, right? So, you know, our commitment is, as it pertains to the wine country specific plan, that we will communicate as much as we know how, right? Not just communicate, but engage the community. We want feedback. We plan to have 2 town hall meetings on the topic, separate from any city council meetings or the planning commission meeting too. So before we go to the planning commission, before it goes to the city council, we're gonna have 2 town hall meetings where we will present the whole history of the item, the whole concept behind it, the environmental work that's been done on it. We'll have an open dialogue with the community to ask and answer questions and get feedback. So what we're aiming for is a very public involved, very transparent process. And ultimately, the city council, based on all the information and the public feedback, will need to make a decision one way or the other. But the city's intention is to be neutral, to provide all the information, to provide a forum for the public to get the information and to get feedback from the public.
Thank you, sir. Please, I wrote down, I'm certain you as well, and I know that it is a matter of public record and recorded now, video and audio. The 3 public speakers had great questions. Ms. Work had 3 questions specifically, an overview of before and after. We've done some pretty phenomenal work on those Walk with the Mayors of drone footage above with some digital overlays of what it could look like, certainly on a project of this magnitude that affects such a large swatch of our city and is certainly has the attention of so many people. I think the expenditure is well worth it to find state-of-the-art ways to show what this project could be. Somebody said, forget who it was, and I didn't write it down, but it was the benefits of it and the detriments of it. We need to point all that stuff out. To include water. I know water is a big one. While we're facing an El Nino year, the drought may not be important, but there are times when we are on water rations from the state, if you will. Giving our children drinkable water is certainly more important than giving plant drinkable water at the moment. Okay, so thank you for the public comment. Thank you for the presentation. Are there questions from council to staff?
I've got a couple. Joe, earlier in your presentation, you mentioned the app a couple of times. And for the benefit of the public, could you explain how the app is operated internally? So there's multiple things on that app that people can get involved with or report things on. Is that managed by one person, or is that representative of every department within the city manages what is appropriate for them? Because a lot of times when I get feedback on the app, it's about not getting feedback back to them in a timely manner. I know we've been spread thin over the years, but I don't know if they understand how it's managed internally.
So I'll do my best to answer that, because different departments, for instance, code enforcement, you can click on the app to report something and it takes you to a third-party application. So although the app is kind of your one point of source, it may refer you to various departments germane to the issue that you're reporting. At the moment, Public Works utilizes the app heavily for its workflow, and I know that as far as I'm aware, that staff is constantly reviewing that and reporting. And I know that in the past we've had issues on getting responses. The system does automate responses if they provide contact information. So that is something that's automated if they provide contact information. But otherwise, I can't speak knowledgeably on specific instances without knowing more context or behind the concern.
I appreciate it. No, I haven't had any issues lately. Okay. And I've met with the city manager previously, and a lot of those things have been worked out. But historically, it was just issues of feedback when they would do a request. And sometimes it's different departments, and so they don't know if it's being managed by multiple departments, or is it going through one person? That one person then takes it and makes sure it gets to those divisions within the city, because they don't know who to follow up with. If they're not getting anything back, who should they contact at the city? So a lot of times it comes back to us. I'm assuming they get them. I do. I've not got any lately. So that takes care of that one.
So I will respond. Each issue in the system, whenever staff creates an issue, you assign staff to receive those concerns. So different issues will route to different staff. And so there's not one central point of contact for all issues in the system.
Perfect. Okay. And then one other small thing, and you've mentioned it in your supporting document, you didn't have it in your physical presentation tonight. You mentioned on page 131 at the top, talking about refreshing the city's logo and having consistency in the branding and communications that go out. Was it our first year?
It was like the first meeting.
First couple of meetings?
Yeah, right.
So back early on in Justin's and my time on council, that was one of the issues that we were reviewing. And there was a lot of talk about doing a different logo and having consistency on our branding. I think it's very good that we have a consistent branding. Everything is the same. Now this council is different than it was 3 years ago. So there might be a different outlook now. But I think Justin and I were pretty much in agreement with our current logo the way it is that's kind of what the city has been known for. So I guess my question to you would be, when talking about refreshing our logo, what kind of vision do you see? Is it refreshing or is it revamping? I know what it says, but what is the intent?
So the intent is to evaluate. So I am aware of those past instances. So there's two intents here. One is to make sure that our current marketing is consistent and using the current logo. And it's just constantly evaluating to see what is appropriate. And I know that there's not a lot of desire from the council to change the logo, and it's not something that I would like to invest a lot of time and energy in with everything we have going. But it is certainly a good practice to just keep aware that whenever we're presenting ourselves as a city, we're doing it in the most relevant manner. So it is not my intent to come forward with a revision of the logo or a big branding change, but definitely making sure what we're doing is consistent and just making sure that whatever we're doing is relevant visually. So that's the intent, is just to always be monitoring. But with this, it's not to bring back a big overhaul.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Duncan?
Yeah, I got a question. On the app, when you click on the homeless and it tells you to call a number, who are you calling?
That
is it. Are Yucaipa Police Department or somewhere in San Bernardino?
It's non-emergency dispatch. So the app is configured at the moment to take digital reports during hours in which we have SOP team members on duty. And then after hours, it's set up to route calls to the non-emergency dispatch line.
You know, it'd be nice is to have maybe you click on that thing and you got a GPS coordinates for the homeless, and it tells you exactly where they're at, or maybe you can type in what's going on. Because I think there's some problems right now calling that number. I feel like we're putting that person out, the dispatch. She seems a little irritated when we call, and that's not a good thing. And I'd like to see if we can get that resolved, if
Councilman,
possible.
I can address that. So we have made changes to the app. So if you open the app and hit report an issue, one of the options is to report homelessness. In fact, I used that function the morning of Thanksgiving. We thought we had everything we needed. We didn't, so I had to go to Vaughn's first thing in the morning on Thanksgiving, and I noticed a homeless individual sleeping on the sidewalk in front of the auto detailing shop. Seemed to be in distress. So I snapped a picture, hit send. The app automatically geotags where that location is. You can send a picture, and so I went about my business. About half an hour later, I thought, well, I was still in my car. I thought, well, I'll drive by and see if it's been, if it's being addressed. And that individual was no longer there. Monday morning, this morning, I received kind of the automated reply saying the issue had been resolved. My understanding on that is that the issue was received by the Sheriff's Department and dealt with right away, but then Monday morning, when our staff came in, they were kind of going through the log and cleared it, and the message was sent out that the issue was taken care of. So that the app does have that functionality, and it seems to be working.
So when you click homeless issue,
Yes.
I'm clicking it,
Yeah.
and it says, please call this number.
Have you refreshed the app? When was the last
No,
time?
I have not
updated
refreshed the app.
Try updating the app.
I can speak to that. So due to trying to make sure that we get responses as soon as we can, in conversations with our public safety manager, the app was configured to, in after hours, default to non-emergency dispatch line, so that somebody would have attention to it during non-business hours. So that's how it's set up at the moment. So if you click right now, it's non-regular business hours, so it default to sheriff's.
What's business hours?
So, Councilman, if you open the app and you click on homeless issue, it brings up a statement. I think what you're seeing is kind of a disclaimer that the app is not monitored 24/7, right? So in case of an actual emergency, dial 911. But if you click that green continue at the bottom, you'll be able to proceed with reporting the issue.
So I click on reporting issues,
Yep.
and then what?
Homeless issue.
Please call this number.
Well, if you could maybe show me what you're looking at there. Yeah, click that green button on the bottom that says continue.
Oh. Nice. All right.
Any other questions?
Nope, that's it. Awesome.
I would like to, I've seen it before when we were rolling out the app. It does a pretty good job of showing cases pending, cases resolved, response time. If I may request during our next public safety update, if we can, I know our police department, our fire department includes response times and what they're averaging. I would like to see that included, please, so that if the police department started showing a response time of 15 to 20 minutes, we'd be critical of them. If our fire department did the same, and it's only fair we spread the wealth. If we're not being responsive to our constituents on the app, then they ought to receive some critical thoughts from the council. So if we could include that in our next public safety update, I would appreciate it. All right. Thank you, Mr. Bordeaux, for the presentation. Certainly, communication is imperative. I think as we move forward with more walks with the mayor, or however we push out information, we explain the why. I've said that several times I know you've heard me say it several times over the last 6-7 months. Explaining the why is important. I think everybody in the audience can remember a time when their parents said, "because I said so," and how frustrating that would be to hear that from somebody who is earning some type of salary to serve you. Just doesn't work. We need to say why we're doing something, why the decision was made, really give that background, establish that foundation. Generally, when I'm talking to somebody and I give them all the information that is maybe buried in fine print or on page 133 of a staff report, it's hard to follow. You mentioned that the press releases be able to be understood. I think one of our first press releases that I remember seeing when we got our first PIO, I was excited to see it, and by the third sentence, I was falling asleep because it was written by somebody who had an engineering background, and it was written for engineers. And I don't even think engineers would have read past the third line, let alone somebody in our community. So I really do appreciate the the ability or the effort staff is making to explain things in a easy to follow way. I think videos are the key. People don't read press releases anymore. It takes too much time. They want their information fast. So as much as we're able to push out those videos, I think it helps. Is there a motion to approve item number 11?
I'll make a motion to approve item number 11.
Motion made
I'll
by-
second.
Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Duncan and seconded by Councilman Garner. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries 5-0. Moving on to our final agenda, item number 12 by Mr. Fermin Preciado, Historic Casablanca House Preservation, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and council members. As you mentioned, Mr. Mayor, this is regarding the historic Casablanca House preservation. As you're aware, the Casablanca House is a structure that was built in the mid-1880s, so it's about 140 years old, and it's located on the Casablanca property along Oakland Road, north of Oakland Road, just east of Jefferson. A little bit of background: back in June of 2022, the city entered into a fair share reimbursement agreement with the owner of the Casablanca property. This agreement, or a memorandum of understanding, an MOU, was related to the Yucaipa Valley Wine Country Specific Plan environmental review. That environmental review, or the preparation of an environmental impact report, has been ongoing for some time now. All of the technical studies have been completed. The document is being finalized, and it will be released for public review fairly shortly. The MOU, or the agreement between the city and the owner of the Casablanca property, it also includes a commitment by that property owner to collaborate with an advisory committee to consider the future use of that historic home, the structure itself, and the property. The MOU identified the committee comprising of one Yucaipa Valley Historical Society board member, one representative from the Casablanca property ownership, and 2 city council members appointed by the city council. There are several deal points in the MOU regarding the preservation of the Casablanca house. I'll go over some of them right now. One of them is that the Casablanca house owner, which is Edelberta LLC, indicates that they will invest $50,000 for the preservation or the restoration of the house, the structure itself. It also identifies that the Casablanca house owner will collaborate with the advisory committee to consider several things related to that house. One is the future use of that house, the structure itself, the scope and the planning of the preservation and also the restoration improvements, to develop a budget and possible funding sources, including grant funding for the restoration of the home, and also the ultimate public or private use and the potential historic designation of the property. The Casablanca house property owner has expressed a commitment to the future use of the house itself and would like to engage with the stakeholders on those potential ideas. The Yucaipa Valley Historical Society has also expressed an interest in working with the city and the property owner on the preservation and also the restoration of the property. This committee has not held any meetings to date. The owner of the Casablanca property did send the city a letter just to follow up regarding the committee and also to ensure the committee is able to fulfill the city council's direction regarding the house. Council members Thorpe and Venable have both expressed interest in serving on the committee, so the recommendations before you tonight is that the city council review the deal points in the MOU related to the preservation of the historic Casablanca house, consider an update of the advisory committee as provided by staff, and appoint council members Thorpe and Venable as the 2 committee members on that committee. That concludes my report, and staff is available for questions.
Thank you, sir. Is there questions of staff? I'll move approval of item number 12. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Duncan. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries 5-0. Announcements. Is there any member of the council that has anything to announce?
I just want to say that I know my colleagues have slobbered all over you tonight and told you what a great job you did. But I've attended every one of those Winterfest celebrations. I've been to every one of them. And I believe that was the best one ever. I think it was better attended. I think that the program was excellent. I appreciate so much you and your staff and what you did there. And so thank you very much.
I'll echo the same thing that Mayor Pro Tem about the Winterfest. Great job, Megan.
If there's nothing else, I will adjourn this regular City Council Housing Authority and Successor Agency meeting. The time is 7:56. See y'all next month.